أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And welcome everybody to another one of your G2 classes. I hope you're all doing well today, inshallah, and jazakumullah to everybody for arriving to the class today on time. As always, we're going to start off our class with an opening prayer, and for that, we'll request the student to come to the mic. So, could I please ask our co-host, our support teacher, to call a student to the mic today? Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum Assalam. G247, please.
Perfect. Student G247, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How are you doing today?
Good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm good too, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. So let's start off with the Abud and Tasmiyah. And as you recite it, just read out the English translation with it as well. Okay?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan's rejected. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful.
Perfect. Very nicely recited. So this is our prayer for today. Are you able to recite it on your own, or would you like me to lead you in?
I can recite it on my own.
Perfect. Off you go whenever you're ready.
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري. Lord, expand my mind and make my task easy for me.
Perfect. And that's Surah Taha, verses 26 to 27. MashaAllah, that was really, really nicely recited. And I love how much pressure you are applying on mushaddad letters as well. That's very, very good to see. That was overall a very good recitation. Jazakumullah student G247 for coming to the mic today. Take care of yourself and Allah Hafiz for now.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Okay. Let's take a look at our class etiquettes for today before we go on to our class schedule. So please make sure you have joined the class having done your ablution, in other words, your wudu. Please make sure you're wearing clean clothes and that your head is covered. It's also very important to sit in a quiet place under parental supervision, just so we can eliminate any kind of background noise or distractions. And your parents will be there to help you during these classes as well and guide you further. And lastly, please make sure you have signed in with the correct ID, as only the correct IDs are allowed to be called to the mic, okay? So you can use your time right now to just go into the participant list to find yourself and rename yourself if you have happened to sign in with the incorrect ID. Having said that, our support teacher has very kindly dropped the attendance form for today. It's a Google form link that you can find in the chat facility, okay? Make sure you copy this form, and at the end of the class, you can just paste the link and actually submit in your attendance just so that you are not marked absent, okay? You've done a very good job turning up to the class today. Make sure you submit the attendance as well so it's all noted down that you did attend the class, all right? So that form you can find in the chat box. All right, so we've already had our opening prayer done. We've already made some announcements. Today, we are going to be introducing you to a new rule, which is basically the rule of waqf. And inshallah, I'll be giving you a very short presentation on the rule of waqf, what it is, and just making sure that you understand why we do waqf in the first place, so it's easier for you to understand the rule for future lessons. Okay, and as always, we are going to be going through the prayer from the Holy Quran. We're also going to be covering the hard words of the Lavat, and we will also cover a commandment from the Holy Quran, so one of the hukams as well. And then at the end, we will conclude the class with a closing prayer. Okay, so this is the plan for today, and we are going to save our time and go straight into the rule of waqf. Okay, so what is waqf? Waqf is basically an Arabic word, and it basically means to pause, to take a break. Okay, so when we are reciting the Holy Quran, we run out of breath. And so we need to pause to take a breath and start again. In today's lesson, we're going to explain to you the correct ways you can do this. So, there will be two things that you need to be aware of. And the first one we're going to start off with is that we should pause somewhere in such a way that the meaning is not changed, okay? So the way you pause will affect the meaning of what you're reciting. So the first thing we need to be aware of is we need to pause somewhere so that the meaning isn't changed, okay? So that the meaning remains the same. So, sorry, let's see how the meaning can be changed. And we're going to talk you through an example. This is a very social example. It's got nothing much to do with the Holy Quran, but it will all make sense to you at the end, okay? So it's just a little example involving a little boy known as Zishan. He's a really sociable boy and he loves his family. He enjoys eating with others and he especially likes barbecues because he gets to cook at the barbecue. He particularly likes it when his whole family get together for a barbecue. And he absolutely loves it if he is allowed to invite his friends over also. So let's write the key points of what I've just explained. Zishan likes barbecuing and eating his friends and his family. That doesn't sound right, does it? Let's try to pause. Let's try to take a break, add a comma, and try again. Zishan likes barbecuing, pause, and eating his friends and his family. That is also incorrect. Let's try it again, but this time let's pause at the correct places. So we've added a colon here. Zishan likes barbecuing, eating, he likes his friends and his family. And that sounds correct because nobody wants to be eating their friends or family, is it? And the meaning totally changed when we added the colon, when we added the comma, when we took a pause. As you can see, in this top example, there was nothing like that. And we said something that sounded very wrong, didn't it? So, when we read, where we pause, where we stop, can make a difference. It can totally change the meaning, just like we saw in the example with Zishan as well. It totally changed the meaning. But as soon as we added the commas, as soon as we took a break, we paused, everything made sense. So the meaning is very important, and how we pause can affect the meaning. So remember that the Holy Quran contains the words of Allah. And we definitely don't want to be changing the meaning of what is being said. These are all words of Allah. We wouldn't want to change the meaning of anything. Sometimes when you're reciting the Holy Quran, you already know the chapters, so you know where to stop, where to pause. It's just something that you're already aware of. You don't need to think about it twice. You don't need to think about the meaning because you know the surah, you know where to pause. But for those people who don't know Arabic or don't know the Holy Quran all off by heart, sometimes you don't know how to pause and where to pause. So the meaning can be affected. And this is why we have different ways that we can stop. Okay? So the first way we can stop is at the end of every verse. As you know, there's many chapters in the Holy Quran, and many chapters have a lot of verses. There's so many verses in the Holy Quran. So the first thing you can do is stop at every verse, at the end of every verse. And this is actually a sunnah of the Holy Prophet as well, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let's take an example here. So as you can see, this is actually a very long verse, but you can see that here's where the verse starts. And if you wanted to pause naturally, you can actually pause at the end of the verse. This little box indicates a starting of a new verse. Yeah? Another place where you could stop is where the little pause marks are present within the verse. So for example, can you see this little jim and this little ta and this little sod? They're there for a reason, and you can actually pause in most instances. And so you can use these pause marks within verses to pause as well. And sometimes there's going to be very, very long verses. And so there may not be a little pause mark present in the center. So what can you do? You can stop and then you go back a few words and restart again. So what do I mean by that? For example, let's take a look at this first example here. I'm going to recite it out for you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فبما نقضهم ميثاقهم لعناهم. Here I run out of breath, right? So now what do? We go back a few words and then we restart. لعناهم وجعلنا قلوبهم قاسية. And then you have a little G there, so you can pause, right? So how did we stop? I was reciting, I ran out of breath somewhere around here, so I paused, I went back, and then I recited again. Let's take a look at another example. ومن الذين قالوا إنا نصارى أخذنا ميثاقهم. And now I've run out of breath, so I take a pause here. And then when we restart, we can restart from here. أخذنا ميثاقهم فنسوا حظا مما ذكروا به. And then as you can see, there's a little miniature sword present there. So you can actually pause there as well. Okay. So as you know, sometimes the verses can be very long, so you can actually pause in between, but just make sure you restart from the appropriate place. So go a couple of words back and then restart again. So today we've been told that there are two things that we need to be aware of. One, that when we pause, we need to pause in such a way so that the meaning doesn't change. Remember, we spoke about the example of Zishan, yeah? And two, we should observe the rules of pausing. We should observe the rule of waqf whenever we pause. So what do I mean by that? Let's take a look at an example. So here we have our tasmiyah present. So if we were reciting it automatically, because we know it off by heart, we will say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And we'll pause at the end. But as you can see, the meme carries a kasra underneath, doesn't it? So when we were pausing, why didn't we just say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim? Because there's a kasra there. But these are the rules of waqf. So when we stop at the end of the tasmiyah, we do not actually observe the kasra on the meme. And this is a rule of waqf. So there are actually many rules of waqf, the rules of pausing present. And when you pause, you won't always pause as how it's written. As you saw in this example, we said Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, but it's actually written with a kasra underneath. So we don't actually always pause as it's written. And you will have to apply the appropriate rules to help you kind of think of or figure out how to pause in specific situations. And in G2, you will learn some of these rules from the Talimul-Quran lesson, lesson number 21. And you can find this lesson on page number 85. Okay? And inshallah, we will start looking at some of these rules from tomorrow onwards. So it's very, very important that we are paying close attention to pausing from today, okay? And inshallah, once we start teaching you these rules of waqf, it will all fall into place and it'll be a lot easier for you to apply the rules with more and more practice, okay? So the two things we take away from today is one, pausing is so important because we can run out of breath. And so we want to pause in a way so that the meaning doesn't change, because as you saw, meanings can change significantly. And then number two, we want to apply the correct rule of waqf. So if we are pausing, how are we going to pause? All right, so that is something we're going to be focusing on from now onwards. And inshallah, from tomorrow, we'll be covering these rules to help you further. All right. So this now takes me on to our next segment of today's class, which is the prayer from the Holy Quran, okay? And you can find this prayer in chapter number 37, verse 101. Here we are. It's the prayer of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So I'm going to recite this prayer once for you, and then we will break it down into its constituent parts, okay? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم رب هب لي من الصالحين. And the English translation is, My Lord, grant me a righteous son. So first of all, remember, Rabbi. The ba carries a shadda on top. So what do? We put a lot of pressure on that letter. Rabbi. And then we recite the kasra as well. Habli. Remember the lam over here was stretching the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts. This is because the rule of ya mad. Do you remember if there is a ya sakin and the letter before it carries a kasra, you change that ya sakin into a ya mad and you end up stretching the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts. And again, mina solihin. We're joining the noon and the sod together, ignoring all the blank letters in between. So let's break it down a little better for you. Rabbi is where you're applying the rule of tashdid. Okay, remember we put tashdid on letters because in reality there's actually 2 bars present. So the tashdid tells you that there's 2 identical letters present. But in Arabic, just the way the grammar works, we write the letter out once and put a tashdid on top rather than having to write the letter twice. So there's actually 2 bars present over here. One is ba and then one is ba with a kasra. And so due to 2 letters being present, identical letters being present, we put a lot of pressure. We say Rabbi. Okay? Here is an example of sukoon. So the ba carries a sukoon on top. So we join the letters together. Hab. And yamad is one of the rules I've already explained. We stretch the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts. Remember the rule of wasl. Okay, so whenever you see a sakin letter or a mushaddad letter, you need to join it to something, right? So we found a sword carrying a shadda on top. So we need to join the sword to a letter. Okay? And we normally join it to the letter before, but if you look at the letter before, it is blank. It doesn't carry any fatha, any dhamma, kasra, any kind of tanveen, so it's a blank letter. So we can't join the sword to that. Then we look at the letter before that. Again, it's an alif, and again, it's blank, so we can't join the sword to that. Then if we look at the letter before, it's noon, okay? And it is voweled. In order for us to join the sword to a letter, it has to be voweled. In Arabic, we say mutaharrik, okay? And this is the most recent mutaharrik letter because it carries a fatha. And we join the noon and the sword together, ignoring all these blank letters in between. And lastly, the sword mushaddad carries a vertical fatha. So what do? We stretch the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts. So let's call a student to the mic so we can practice this specific prayer together. So support teacher, could you please have a student to the mic?
G220, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. Did you roughly understand the rules that are appearing in this prayer here?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So let's start off with the A'udh and then you can try to recite this prayer for me.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ربي هب لي من الصالحين.
Well done, mashallah. That was a very, very good recitation. Can you let me know why are we stretching the sound of the sword?
Because it's a vertical fatha and it's supposed to be 2 counts long.
Good, well done, mashallah. It's very, very clear explanation of why we are stretching the sound out. So she very beautifully explained there is a vertical fatha, and so we need to stretch the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts. Very good. And lastly, can you please let me know this sword mushaddad, right? It carries a shadda, so we call it mushaddad. This
Yes.
mushaddad sword needs to be joined to a letter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why
Yes.
can we not join it to the letter before?
Oh, because the letter is not a mutaharrik letter, meaning it doesn't have any stroke on it. And
Good.
we can only join letters to mutaharrik letters.
Absolutely. So in this example, what letter will the sword join to?
The noon.
The noon. Well done, mashallah. I'm very, very happy with your explanations today. Very, very well done. Keep practicing and jazakumullah for coming to the mic today. Take
Jazakallah.
care.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. All right, amazing. Could we have another student to the mic, please?
G255, please.
Jazakumullah. Student G255. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. So, did you understand the rules present in the prayer today?
Not that much, not quite.
Not that much. Is there a specific rule that I spoke about that didn't make sense to you?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, how about you start off with the ta'awudh, recite the prayer for me, and then we can talk through the rules together, okay?
Alright. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي هب لي من نصالحين.
MashaAllah, that was a very, very good recitation. Well done. For a first attempt, that was really, really good. So let's break it down first. Can you see this ba carries a shadda?
Yeah,
So what do? We need to join it to a letter, right?
yeah.
So we look at the letter before it, and you ask yourself, is this letter a mutaharrik letter? Do you know what the word mutaharrik means?
A letter that can join with another letter.
Uh, Not necessarily. Well done for trying though. A mutaharrik letter is a letter that carries a stroke. Yeah?
Oh,
So
yeah,
can you see
okay.
the ra? What stroke does the ra carry?
Huh?
What stroke does this letter ra carry?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Can you see this ra carries a stroke on top?
Yeah.
Do you know what the stroke is called?
Ashadda.
Okay, so this one's actually called a fatha. A
A
shadda
fath.
is basically this little W looking sign, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
So we join it together, these two letters, because this is a mushaddad letter and this is a mutaharrik letter, so you can't join these together. So we say Rabbi. And because of this, we are putting a lot of pressure because of the shadda. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So try repeating after me. Rabbi.
Rabbi.
Okay. And now again, this ba carries a sukoon, so we join it to a mutaharrik letter, right?
Yeah.
To the closest mutaharrik letter. So you look at the letter before and you ask yourself, is this a mutaharrik letter? And do you know if it is?
Yeah, because it has a fatha show.
Good, well done. So the ha carries a fatha, it's a mutaharrik letter, and you join it together. You say hub. Try saying that for me. So try saying hub.
Haba.
Perfect, amazing. And now over here, the lam has got a ya joined to it, a ya sakin. Do you remember the rule of ya mad?
You have to join it with the mutaharrik letter and like say like by li or
Yeah, you will say li. And how long will you prolong it for?
2 seconds.
Good, well done. So we will prolong it because if there is a ya sakin and the letter before it has a kasra underneath, then you will change that into a ya mad and it will cause you to elongate the sound of the letter carrying the kasra for 2 seconds or 2 counts. Okay? And lastly, just talking about this rule here, mina solihin. Can you see we joined the sod and the noon together?
Yeah.
Why did we not join the sod to this letter? Because this is the closest letter to sod, isn't it?
But because it doesn't have a mutaharrik.
Yeah, it's not a mutaharrik letter. It doesn't carry any strokes and therefore it's not voweled and we can't join the sword to that letter. So these are mainly the rules that we have covered in this prayer. It seems like you're understanding it really well. I just think you need to practice it a bit more so you can get the hang of joining letters together, which letter is the mutaharrik, which isn't, and that's something that will come more with practice. Okay?
Okay.
All right, mashallah, that was overall a very, very good recitation. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic today. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz for now.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Before we move on to our next student, as you know, today we did an introduction to waqf, and I just want you to get thinking a bit. Over here at the end of the prayer, obviously, because we're reaching the end of the prayer, we're going to pause, right? We're going to do waqf. And as you can see, rather than saying mina solihin, because it has a fatha on top, rather than saying mina solihin, I end up saying mina solihin and joining ha and noon together. So how does that work? This is something that you will be covering in the future lessons, especially from tomorrow. This is something you will cover tomorrow. So make sure you do attend the class and it will all make sense to you how to pause and where to pause. Okay? All right. Let's ask our support teacher to call another student to the mic, please.
G269, please.
Jazakumullah, student G269. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing today?
Fine, how are you?
I'm good too, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. Did you understand the rules in the prayer today?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. Perfect, amazing, good to know. Let's start off with the ta'awudh and then you can recite this prayer for us also.
Okay. Rab, shall I read it?
Yes, so start off with a'udhu billah.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي هب لي من الصالحين.
Well done, mashallah. Very, very nicely recited. Well done. Just remember, if a letter carries a fatha, a dhamma, or a kasra, how long should you spend on that letter?
2 seconds.
Okay, remember it's just 1 second, yeah? If it's just a fatha, just a kasra, or a dhamma, it's just 1 second.
Okay.
Where you will spend 2 seconds in terms of fatha would be if it's a vertical fatha. Can you see? Here, the sword carries a vertical fatha, and so we will stretch the sound out for 2 seconds. But if it's just a usual fatha, like on the noon, like on the ha here, then you're just gonna spend how long?
1 second.
Good, 1 second. So this leads me on to this point here. When you said Rabbi, you stretched the sound out. You said Rabbi habili. Remember, the ba only carries a kasra underneath. So how long can we give it?
1 second.
Good, 1 second. So we're going to say Rabbi. Try saying that for me.
Rabbi.
Perfect. Amazing, mashallah. And did you realize that we were putting a lot of pressure on the bar, right?
Yes.
Do you know why we were putting pressure on the bar?
Because it has a shut on top of it.
Yes, absolutely. Very well answered. So the bar carries a shadda and we put a lot of pressure. The reason why the shadda tells us to put pressure is because the shadda, if it appears on the letter, it tells you that there's actually two of those letters present. Okay? But in Arabic grammar, rather than writing out the letter bar 2 times, it just writes out once and then there's a shadda on top to indicate there's actually two bars. Yeah? And so you put a lot of pressure for that reason. MashaAllah, overall, it was a very, very nice recitation. Just keep practicing, and I'm just going to recommend that you focus a lot more on your timing. Okay? All right. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic today. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz for now. All right, support teacher, could we have another student to the mic, please?
G270, please.
Perfect. Student G270.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good too, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. So did you understand the rules covered in this prayer today?
Yes.
Perfect, amazing, very, very good to know. So let's start off with the ta'awudh and then you can recite this prayer for us, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي ربي هب من الس- من الصالحين.
Perfect. Well done. A very, very good recitation. Well done. It was a good attempt, first attempt. Let's take a look at a couple of things together. So first of all, we just spoke with the previous student that if a letter carries a shadda, we put a lot of pressure on it, right?
Yes.
So remember, the sword carries a shadda, so we put a lot of pressure on the sword, okay? So if you repeat after me, من الصالحين.
من الصالحين.
Good. And did you notice you were putting quite a bit of pressure on the sword, right? Yeah?
Yes.
Perfect. And that's because it carries a shadda. The next thing, the sword doesn't only just carry a shadda, it also carries another stroke. Do you know the name of this stroke?
No.
Okay, so this is called a vertical fatha. Okay. Do you know what a fatha looks like?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So can you see a fatha, like in this example, is actually diagonal? If I highlight it for you. On the noon, there is a fatha, but it's diagonal, right?
Yes.
But on the sword, again, there is a fatha, but it's not diagonal. This time it's standing upright. And if something stands upright, we call it vertical. It goes from top to bottom. Yeah? Or
Yes.
from bottom to top, however you like to think of it. But it's actually a standing up fatha. It's a fatha that goes from top to bottom, and it's actually known as a vertical fatha. What is it known as?
A vertical fatha.
Good. And if there is a vertical fatha on a letter, do you know how long we should prolong it for?
1 second.
Okay, if there is a fatha, you prolong it for 1 second. If it is a vertical fatha, if it stands upright, then it is 2 seconds. Okay?
Okay.
So 2 seconds are 2 counts. So remember, you stretch the sound out of the saw. Mina solihin. Try that for me.
من الصالحين.
Well done. MashaAllah, very, very nicely recited. Very well done, MashaAllah. Overall, it was a very good recitation. I just want you to practice a bit more and make sure you're paying close attention towards the timing as well. Okay? All right. Well, Jazakumullah for coming to the mic today. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz for now. Okay, let's move on to our next segment of today's class, which is practicing hard words of tilawat. As you know, the Holy Quran is it's a beautiful book. It carries so many different chapters, different verses, and obviously it's all words of Allah. So we love this book daily. But sometimes when you're reciting the Holy Quran, you will find those hard words that are just really, really hard to recite. So our aim within these lessons is to try to teach you or go over as many hard words of tilawat as we can, so that when you're reciting the Holy Quran, it becomes easier for you to recite these words. Okay, so we'll be covering a hard word of the Holy Quran today. So I'm gonna try and recite this for you once. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ميراث السماوات. Okay, it was a lot going on in this, but let's break it down. So first of all, there is a meme with a kasra underneath, and there is a ya, as you can see here. Meme with a kasra and a ya. So we're going to stretch the sound out of the meme, because if there is a ya sakin and the letter before it carries a kasra, you stretch the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts. Me. And then looking at ra, carries a fatha with a blank alif after it. So it's a rule of alif mad. And we stretch the sound out for 2 seconds. So we say mi ra. And then you have a tha with the dhamma, and you can also see there is a sin with a shadda. Now, if you know, if there is a letter, a mushaddad letter or a sakin letter, you need to join it to another haruf. So in this situation, we're going to join this mushaddad sin with this tha here because it is a mutaharrik letter. All these letters in between are not mutaharrik. They don't carry a fatha at dhamma. They don't carry any kind of stroke. So we can't join it to these two. We end up joining the sin mushaddad to this letter tha. Okay? And also, we know that the sin mushaddad carries a fatha. So we need to not only join it to the tha, but also need to say the sound of the fatha. Thussa. Thussa. So all together. Mirathussa. Okay? And then after that, you can see there is a meme with a vertical fatha. Remember, guys, it stands upright. So we stretch the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts. Mirathu sama. And we stretch the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts. And similarly, right next to it, next to the meme, there is also a vowel that carries a vertical fatha. So what do? We also stretch the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts. So we end up saying ميراث السماوات, stretching the sound out for 2 counts or 2 seconds. And lastly, there is a tha with a kasra underneath. So how long do we give on this letter? Just 1 second. So altogether we end up saying ميراث السماوات. Okay? This was definitely a hard word to recite, but what we will do now is we'll call some students to the mic just so we can practice this word together. All right, support teacher, could we have another student to the mic, please? Support teacher, assalamu alaikum.
Oh, sorry. G306, please.
Jazakumullah. Student G306, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. Did you understand the rules covered today?
Yes.
Yeah. And did you kind of understand why we do waqf and how to do it in some situations?
Yeah.
Yeah, good, perfect. That's good to know. All right, so if you start off with the awudh, try reciting this hard word for me, please. Okay, let's start off with a'udhu billah first.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ميراث السماوات.
Well done, mashallah. Very, very nicely recited. Just remember that there is a ra with a fatha, right?
Yeah.
And there is a blank alif straight after it, correct? So here we actually apply the rule of alif mad, which is basically if there is a blank alif and the letter right before it carries a fatha on top, you need to stretch the sound out of that letter for 2 seconds or 2 counts. And that blank alif turns into an alif mad. Okay?
Okay.
So here you're going to stretch the sound out of the ra. So if you repeat after me, Mira.
Mira.
And as you notice, when you join the tha and the sin together, you eliminated all of these letters in between, right?
Yeah.
And do you know why you did that?
Because
Why? Yeah.
they don't have a fatha on top.
Yeah, they don't have a fatha, but they don't carry any kind of stroke, right? So they're blank letters. And so we can't join them to the sin mushaddad. We'll look at the letter that does. And the tha carries a dhamma. It does carry a stroke. So you can join these two letters together. Okay?
Okay.
All right, mashallah, overall it was a very, very good recitation. Just keep practicing. I want you to focus more on your mud letters, so alif, waw, and ya, and how to apply the rule of alif mad, waw mad, and ya mad. Okay?
Okay.
All right, mashallah, that was very, very good recitation. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic today. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz for now.
Love it.
Allah Hafiz. Okay. So we have covered a hard word of tilawat. I'm afraid I can't call many students to the mic for that, only because we only have around 5 minutes to cover it. But I do want you all to practice this hard word at home and break it down like we broke it down in today's lesson as well. Just break down each part, know how long to prolong the letters for. If it carries a vertical fatha, it's 1 second. If it is just a fatha, it's a vertical fatha, it's 2 seconds. And if it's just a fatha, it's 1 second. So this is something that you want to be keeping an eye out for. And make sure you're also paying attention to waqf. How are you going to pause? All right. Let's move on to our last segment of today's class, which is the commandment from the Holy Quran. And you can find this commandment in chapter number 3, verse 33. And in the Nisabul Hifz, you can find it on page number 73. It's number 15. So here we are. As always, I'm going to recite this for you once, and then we will break it down into its constituent parts and see what rules are present, all right? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أطيعوا الله والرسول. And the English translation is obey Allah and the Messenger. So, first of all, let's break it down slightly, shall we? As you can see, there is a lam with a shadda on top. So we know we need to join this lam to a letter. And we join to the closest mutaharrik letter. So if we look at the letter closest to the lam, it is this letter here. And this letter doesn't carry a fatha, a dhamma, doesn't carry any kind of tanween, so it doesn't carry a stroke, and therefore it is not a mutaharrik letter. So we look at the letter before that. It's a blank alif. Again, it's blank. It doesn't carry a stroke. So we can't join the lam mushadda to that. So we look at the letter before that. Again, alif is blank. It's not a mutaharrik. So look at the letter before. It's a vowel. Again, it's blank. It's not a mutaharrik letter. So we can't join this letter to the lam. And then if we end up looking at the letter before that, it's the letter ayn. And it carries a dhamma. Okay, and it is a mutaharrik letter because it carries a stroke. So you're going to end up joining the ayn and the lam together. How is ayn a mutaharrik letter? It carries a stroke of dhamma. Dhamma is a stroke. So we end up joining ayn and lam together, ignoring all the blank letters in between. So this is a rule of wasl. In English, it translates to combining. All right, so combining, joining, it basically means wasl. And in particular, we're paying attention to how to combine letters together if they carry a shadda. So remember, mushaddad letters join to the most recent mutaharrik letter. Sound both letters, but you ignore all the letters in between. And make sure to press on the mushaddad letter. Okay, we ignored these letters in between. We made the sound of ayn and lam, and we pressed on the letter lam because it carries a shadda. All right, so similarly, the same rule is applying here, but I'll talk through this rule with another student. So let's call a student to the mic. Co-host, could we have another student to the mic, please?
G310, please.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good too. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. Did today's rules make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Did the rule of waqf kind of make sense? Do you know why we do waqf?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell me one place where you would pause?
Like right now I would stop here at the end of this part this area, yes, because there's a dream there.
It's a small little dream, absolutely. And it's just one little portion that we're reciting, so we have to pause anywhere at the end because we've reached. But this little dream does help us, doesn't it? So that's very, very well remembered. MashaAllah, well done. So if you could please start off with the awwad for me and then try reciting this hukm for me.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أطيعوا الله والرسول obey
Well,
Allah and the messenger.
well done. MashaAllah, for a first attempt, that was a very, very good recitation. MashaAllah, well done. Let's take a look at a couple of things together first, okay? So when you were reciting this hukam, you said ati'u la. You recited it as two separate letters. Remember, can you see this lam with a shadda?
Allah والرسول
Well done. Well done. So this time you corrected your mistake. You saw there was a lam with the shadda. It needs to join to a mutaharrik letter. Ayn is the mutaharrik letter. So we join the letters together and remember to press on the lam. So well done. Now the same rule is being applied here. Can you see there is a ra mushaddad?
Yes, Rasul.
Perfect. Can you let me know why did we not join the ra mushaddad to the letter before?
Because that one doesn't have a kasra anything on it.
Yeah, it doesn't have a kasra, a fatha, it doesn't have any kind of stroke. Yeah. Do you know if a letter carries a stroke, what it's called?
Oh, I forgot. I know, but I forgot now. But I know the reason why you don't join it is the reason because it doesn't have a if it doesn't have a kasra or anything, then a stroke, yeah, then you don't join it. But the letter before the closest letter you join it with, like the va is very close to the ra, so that why we'll join the va to the ra instead of
Yeah,
joining the va to the alif.
absolutely. You join the va to the ra because the ra carries a stroke, it carries fatha. And if a letter carries a stroke, we call it a mutaharrik letter. What do we call it?
Mutaharrik letter.
Yeah, and this is the closest mutaharrik letter, so we end up joining these two letters together. All right, and as you could see at the end here, when we paused, we didn't say warrasula, we said warrasul, and we ended up joining the lam and the sin together. But these are the kind of rules that you're going to be covering in the future upcoming lessons, so just be very well prepared for that. But mashallah, overall, that was a very, very good recitation. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic today. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz for now.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Before we call our next student to the mic, can I just request, for those of you who haven't done so already, in the chat box, there is a Google form link for you to press, and that will take you to the Google form just to submit in your attendance for today, okay? So make sure you have done this before the lesson ends. You can copy the link and complete the form later, or you can quickly complete it now, but just make sure you are submitting in your attendance, okay? So that you're not marked absent for today. All right, if I could please request our co-host to call another student to the mic, please.
G287, please.
Jazakumullah, student G287. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm good too, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. So, what about you? Did you understand everything we covered today?
Yes.
Good. Do you know what the word waqf means?
I'm combining.
That's wasl. What about waqf? We covered it in the beginning, right in the beginning.
Is it pausing?
Yes, well done. Very well remembered. So wasl means to combine, but waqf means to pause. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So very well remembered, mashallah. Well done. Let's start off with the ta'awudh, and I would like you to recite this hukum for me, please.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أطيعوا الله والرسول.
Well done, mashallah. Very, very good, very, very good recitation. That was so nicely recited. I really like the way you made the sound of ayn. You gave it the correct pronunciation. Remember, everybody, the letter ayn is a letter of throat. Okay, so the sound of it should come from the throat, and in particular, the sound comes from the middle of the throat, which our student today here did really, really well. So, mashallah, well done for that. Now, just going to ask you a quick question. Do you know this da? We stretched the sound out of it, didn't we?
Yes,
So we said ati. Now, do you know why we stretched the sound out?
because it's a yamad.
Good, well done, mashallah, very well remembered. So ya mad, as you saw, there is a ya sakin and the letter before it carried a kasra. So this becomes into a ya mad, and we end up stretching the sound out of the da for 2 seconds or 2 counts. So this is an example of ya mad. Very, very well remembered, mashallah, well done. And similarly, you know, over here at the end, والرسول. Su. We're stretching the sound out of this for 2 seconds as well. Do you know the reason for that?
Because it's a vowel word.
Good. It's a vowel mud. So there's a vowel sakin and the letter before it carries a dhamma. So what do? We end up stretching the sound out for 2 seconds or 2 counts, and this turns into an example of vowel mud. And can you let me know in this hukam, where are we pausing?
The end.
At the end. Well done. You can pause because you've reached the end, or you can also pause because of this little gene, allowing us to pause and take a break.
Yes.
Yeah? All right, mashallah, that was really, really nicely recited. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic today. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz for now.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Jazakumullah khair. Okay, so hopefully all of this made sense to you. We did recap a lot of rules, but we did also introduce you to the rule of waqf, and this is going to be very interesting. I really personally like the rule of waqf because there's so many different things to learn, and it's a lot easier to apply the rule of waqf because you're actually pausing a lot in the Holy Quran. So how do we pause is such a big question, and that's something that we'll be covering in our upcoming classes very soon, inshallah. Okay, so now this takes us to the end of our lesson today, and we're going to conclude our class with a closing prayer. So if I could please request our co-host to call a student to the mic.
G304, please.
Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum. G304. Okay, no worries. Could we have another student to the mic, please?
G305, please.
Student G305. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, they're not connected to their computer audio, so they might not be able to. Could we have somebody else?
G247, please.
Jazakumullah. Student G247. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
All right, how are you today? You okay?
Good. Yeah, Alhamdulillah. How are you?
I am good too, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. So do you want to start off with ta'awudh, and are you going to recite the prayer on your own, or would you like me to lead you in?
Can I recite it on my own, please?
You absolutely can. Off you go whenever you're ready. Okay, let's start off with A'udhu Billah and Bismillah first.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم ارحمني بالقرآن العظيم. Oh Allah, have mercy on me through the Quran the Great.
And the next one.
وَاجْعَلْهُ لِي إِمَامًا وَنُورًا وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةً, and make it for me the leader, the light, the guidance, and the mercy.
Perfect, mashallah. That was really, really nicely recited. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic today. Take care of yourself, and Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Okay, so that was it for today's class, everybody. Jazakumullah to all of you for attending. Make sure before you leave the class today that you have submitted in your attendance form for today, just so you're not marked absent. And you can find this attendance form in the chat box. You can copy the link and then paste it, and it will take you to a Google form ready for you to complete. It only takes a couple of seconds, so please make sure you do that. And please make sure you practice everything that we cover in the lessons as well, as practice makes perfect, okay? And when you're reciting the Holy Quran, make sure you're applying all the rules to your recitation as well, just so that you become more fluent in it in the future. All right, so hopefully you understood the rule today. Inshallah, we'll start covering rules of waqf from tomorrow, so be very well prepared for that. It's actually very exciting. But yeah, jazakumullah everybody for joining the class today. I hope it was beneficial for you. Take care of yourself, and inshallah we'll see you in an upcoming class tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.